Welcome to the Echo Central's podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Chris Pekarski. And today we have an excellent show for you all with Constable Merv Shantz, who's from the North Bay Police Service, talking about Road Safety Week and local traffic enforcement. Really good episode talking about all things happening in our city and on the roads. But before we get to that, we want to thank our title sponsor, Source for Sports.
Spring is here, and that means one thing. Baseball is back. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of every pitch, every catch, and every moment that brings our community together on the diamond. Whether it's outfitting little leaguers for their very first game, helping local teams suit up for the season, or simply sharing a love of the sport, we're here for it. We're more than just a sports store. We're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to support the leagues, schools, and families who make North Bay's baseball scene so special. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.
So, Dave, we had a fun little banter about the laws and the rules of the road, and we kind of let some of that bleed into the episode. But the episode was great because he talked about what to do, what not to do, and Merv was very forthright in terms of like what he thought was best. But it was a good conversation.
Yeah, Merv's the quintessential police officer. He's very serious about what he does, and I tried to lighten it up a little bit here. I'm probably a representative of the less police, the better kind of crowd, and they all know that. But also, I respect the work they do and the importance it is. I don't want to make light of police enforcement that's trying to save people from being schmucked in an intersection or anything like that. That's devastating. But I don't like the police. It's not that I don't like the police. I just feel better when they're not around.
Were you nervous, Dave? Were you nervous about having police in here with us?
Not in here.
Okay. Well, we're going to try to avoid confessing to potential violations or bylaws or crimes.
I don't even get to lunch without breaking a law, man. It's like most people do, right? It's sort of whether you're doing it and harming others or not, right?
And I like that. Merv was like, I'm a driver too. Like some of these things talk about being preventable and just like doing best practice. And he's like, well, these things happen. Right? Whether you're in an older vehicle that doesn't have the tools to help you be safer, or you're just like not thinking about driving that day as like your primary focus. You have lots in your mind. They try to do good work in terms of making people feel safer, but these things just happen, right? And we do sometimes have slips of, best judgment or alertiveness or attentiveness, and it just happens.
What I really don't like about it is that a punitive enforcement adds a burden onto people financially, and the repercussions are I think, too onerous for what some of these tickets are for.
What do you mean?
Well, if several tickets increase your insurance costs. Insurance costs are very make it prohibitive for some people to even make a living, even if they've only had some of these smaller infractions. They add up, right? So I don't like when you're trying to get by, you're going through your day, you're doing the best you can, you're trying to raise a kid, and then all of a sudden you're facing not just a $200 ticket, which could put you into a spot where you're paying thousands more for insurance. I think it's heavy-handed, right? The impacts. That's just one of the things I'm concerned about.
I understand. Yeah. I kind of fall somewhere in the middle, I think. We talk about, having a stance or being informed on a certain topic. We refer to the one with Councillor Jamie Lowry from last week, is that, I'm not super in favor of large police presence or, potential overreach. But I also do get the phrase here in this position, in this specific instance is like, well, then just, if you can, just reduce it. Just don't speed. Right. And I know that's like easier said than done, but like in the city, for me, I'm not going to confess to anything, but I would say on average and more likelihood, it's probably easier to speed on a highway than a city street. Right. So depending on where you live, if you live outside the city, it might be a little easier for you to potentially get those speeds. For someone like myself who lives downtown, I don't really see those. Right. And so for me, it's a different kind of discussion, but I see what you're saying.
Well, Yeah, our driving habits have to be have to adapt to the situations, and every time we have a close call, that reminds us to be more careful.
Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah, like there's certain spots in the city that are more dangerous and actually than others, and actually sets you up for potentially a larger ticket if you're not paying attention.
Yep.
One, for example, is Sunset School, Lakeshore, the school zone. And you want to you're coming off the highway often, right? And you're already sort of feeling like, and you're going 60 and that feels pretty slow because that's what Lakeshore is further down. But going through that area, you're down 30, 40, right? But you got walkway there for the Cape Paceway. You have the school. So there's a reason for that. And that's a good place for it to be enforced because, nobody wants to lose a child or somebody due to reckless driving.
Yeah, 100%. And I think...
And I say that because I sped through there the other day. A friend of mine was behind me, and he reminded me there was a school zone. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
That's right.
It
happens. But Constable Shantz brought up something interesting that he said, I think, on average reported, or at least like calculated, North Bay has about 150 collisions per month, right? I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the episode. He told us that like kind of off mic when we were chatting. And I found that to be a lot. I mean, you do the math on that. Like that's not a small number for a small city, right? I feel like that's large.
Yeah, well, it's 5 a day.
Quick math.
Yeah.
Check on that one. I'm not going to try to do the math on that one.
5 times 30, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I write. I don't do math.
Ben's giving us, yes, Dave, you're right. This is one thing I can't do. It's
Dave.
very simple math.
I struggle, but clearly. But yeah, that just... I mean, they don't have to be like life-threatening collisions. They're just collisions. That means like, from what I understand at least, as the definition of collision is concerned, like a fender bender, from what I understand, right?
Yeah,
and like that's just like...
Every little ding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are the ones that are reported. Those are the ones that are like essentially... Because I'm not saying you do this, but like if you hit like an unmoving car, you don't report it. Does that go as a reported collision?
Well, if you hit an unmoving car, you're supposed to report it.
You're supposed to report it.
And yeah, it's true.
I would always assume that this number is going to be under
this
the actual.
Probably doesn't include the Walmart parking lot.
Or other large parking lots not affiliated to a certain store or company. But yeah, no, you're right. They happen. And he talks a bit about, Constable Merv, he talks a bit about what they did this week. And when the time of recording, it was the middle of the week. By the time this airs, it'll be after the fact. And he talks a bit about like a high number of tickets given on the Monday of that week. And what he didn't talk about, unfortunately, with us, and he talked a bit about it afterwards, was the tools in which they used, the technology, right? He used LIDAR and radar, and he explained how those are different and how LIDAR, for those who don't know, I mean, I assume everyone knows radar and how they track and they bounce signals off of different cars to get an accurate measure of speed. LIDAR is the use of light through a light gun, which they can kind of pinpoint through different, moments and seconds, more accurate speed, essentially a laser of that person's speed without there being potential interference with a radio wave. And they're using more and more of the technology, which I think is good because it gets a more accurate representation of speeding per person in the area. But he didn't talk about that. But I'm sure
I read somewhere part of the technology chain was actually to reduce the amount of use of radar because there's health impacts.
I'm not familiar.
Okay,
I'm not familiar. But I mean, even if that wasn't the case, let's say it is. If they can get more accurate measurements of people speeding, as opposed to maybe like less accurate, like I'm for accuracy. If they're going to be out there potentially ticketing people, make sure it's accurate, make sure it's good, make sure it's reflective of not me, but what I would be doing, if I was speeding, right? Because I want it to be like, okay, well, like if you hit me at going 84 or 80 and a 60, like I want to make sure it's exactly that, as opposed to like what it was approximated as. Like, because we always hear about like, especially we're not all of us are 33 years old, but technology has changed. And we always hear about how speeding might be like approximated or things aren't super accurate. Well, the light radar, the LIDAR, is supposed to be more accurate, right? And we talked about other different measures in terms of just like having police presence, traffic enforcement. And they really made a push. And we talked a bit about how, like, okay, well, what happens after this? Will it go back up? Right? I think, which is a really interesting point. But the idea is to kind of make people more aware as we head into summer. Safety for all people, roads and pedestrians, is important.
Yeah. Well, while you're watching the interview, play a game. We'll call it the donut game. And every time I make Merv take a sigh.
Were you tracking? Were you tracking it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I got a half dozen donuts.
Why did you say donut though, Dave?
Cups.
I figured you. Jesus.
Because they love when I do that.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They tell me that.
Yeah, it's a good episode. I'm really looking forward to our listeners hearing it and our viewers watching it. And let us know what you think about it. And let us know, like, I'm not saying you have to confess a crime or put it in the chat, but like, let us know your experience with viewing traffic or speeding or violations or anything you want to share with us, because it helps create part of that conversation and discussion.
Share with us your interaction with a police officer who either gave you a warning and you really appreciated it, or when they did something that went above and beyond the call to help you. And share those stories as well. It's not all, we could use some positivity sometimes.
I'm all for it. That's why I'm here, Dave. So. Today's episode, we have Constable Merv Shantz. Constable, how are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Today's episode, we're going to talk all about Road Safety Week and local traffic enforcement. There's lots going on right now. If you live in the city, you know. But how are you? Tell us what you're feeling, what you're seeing out there.
Feeling pretty good. I was just talking to our traffic enforcement officer this morning, and he was looking at the weekly stats, and he said collisions are down the last few days now that we've been having our traffic enforcement campaign. We hope the two are related, and it's not just a coincidence, but road safety and enforcement really does make a difference.
So I have some notes here for myself that Road Safety Week is happening right now between May 13th and May 19th, and this will air afterwards. So we're kind of in the middle of it, but you're going to get the post of it all at the end of it. This is happening Canada-wide, correct?
It's Ontario-wide.
Ontario-wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ontario's Ontario Road Safety Week, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so where did this stem from? Like, what's where did this all come from?
Well, I think the Ontario government is committed to keeping the public safe on the roads. Ontario actually boasts some of the safest roads in the world, and we're quite proud of that as law enforcement agencies. And the government, they've been doing this for a number of years now, and it comes sort of that same time of the year every year in May, is Road Safety Week, and they just want to ensure that law enforcement agencies are in the public's eye and making sure that people are safe on the roads.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense as to, where and how it came up. But like for me, I mean, I would imagine like, well, Road Safety Week should be every week. But I guess this is more of a public initiative push to really push that forward, right?
It's more of a public awareness campaign. I mean, truthfully, we're out there 24/7. We've got lots of new technology that we can get into later that we use on a daily basis. And but this week in particular, we want to make sure that the public is aware and that we're visible. We have extra officers that are doing some enforcement this week. But of course, the message is every week should be Road Safety Week.
From your experience, is North Bay above or below the average for road safety?
I haven't looked at any statistics. I did traffic enforcement. I was in the traffic enforcement unit for several years. And we haven't really compared ourselves with other communities. But I haven't seen any anomalies that would make me think that we're outside of the norm. A city our size, we know how many collisions occur on a monthly basis, and obviously that's a number that we want to always decrease. But as far as I'm concerned, we're sort of middle of the pack in terms of road safety.
What do you think has the most impact on road safety? Police presence, or just the fact that people are trained well to drive?
I think it's a combination. Now, to get your license, obviously in Ontario, taking a course is a big part of it, learning road safety. And so the young people learning how to drive properly and drive safely, I think that's an important thing that's come more to fruition over the past number of years, rather than when, the old guys like myself got their license. You turn 16, you just go down and, write your test, do a road test, and you're on your way. No restrictions. So I think better education for the younger generation is good. But also, as I say, with the increase in technology that's available to law enforcement, and the availability that we have to be out in the public eye through social media and the regular media really does help as well.
Who do you think's more dangerous on the road, a 24-year-old that's in a hurry or a senior that is heading to get another prescription?
Well, that's a really good question. And we get that a lot as the aging population of our city and our country. Seniors really are a big part of our society. And sometimes as people get older, obviously, certain skills do get diminished. So it becomes problematic when there's no checks and balances in place. So that person that's young and energetic and, quick-witted, as they're going down the road, they may think they're invincible, but sometimes that works against them. But the older population too, we need to make sure that we keep an eye on things, and that's a big part of that's family members keeping an eye. If you have an elderly relative, parent, grandparent, and you're seeing some cognitive decline or some decline in their driving skills, then it's time to have that chat with them. And if necessary, bring it forward to their doctor, because doctors have the power to be able to take licenses away and that sort of thing for medical purposes. Oh, good question, though.
Yeah. So, this is something that Dave beat me to, which is always fun. I thought you were going to straight up honestly say like a 33-year-old man, a 60-year-old man from East Ferris, but thank you for not including us in this hypothetical. I'm looking at what the North Bay Police Service is focusing on in terms of select areas for this campaign. We have cell phone use, stop sign and red light violations, speeding, and interestingly enough, enclosed mobility scooter violations. Can you talk a bit about all these? And maybe some demographics are more leaning towards more of those than the other, but can you just talk about those?
Sure. So the big one is speeding, as far as safety goes, and that's the one that we get the most complaints about. Citizens in North Bay, they see vehicles speeding by their house. Not every street has a sidewalk, and there's kids walking to and from school, and so speeding's a big one. But there's other infractions too that cause collisions: red light running, not coming to that complete stop at a stop sign, looking both ways and making sure that it's safe before you proceed. And seatbelts, obviously, you want to keep yourself safe when you're out there. You may be a good driver, but if someone cuts you off and you don't have your seatbelt on, injuries could happen. So those are the big driving infractions that we find. There's others too. Oh, I missed cell phones. That's a huge one. Distracted driving is huge. That's become a real problem over the last number of years. And of course, with our laws now that you're not allowed to have that handheld device, we've been able to do some enforcement on that as well. So, but enclosed mobility scooters. This
I got to know what that is.
And funny thing, I was just checking our social media feeds this morning, and the article we put out on the mobility scooters actually was one of the highest number of views. So people are interested in this, and it's where this is stemming from is vehicles are always evolving, and there's always someone that's coming up with something new on the roads. And obviously there's laws out there in terms of what's legal and what's not legal on the roads. And then how you operate said vehicle is also, there's also laws about that. So the enclosed mobility scooters, it's essentially, we've all seen the mobility scooters. The only difference is now they're enclosed, which they kind of look like a smart car, but they're about a quarter of the size of a smart car.
They're like a small little like buggy almost type of thing.
They're very tiny, and when you first see them on the road, you kind of do a double take because you're not really sure what you're seeing. But this, in fact, is just a mobility scooter that you'd see every day, but it's enclosed. So it's got a roof, and it's I'm assuming it's for weather. So a little bit more protection from the weather, but certainly not much protection from a collision. So that's where
Sort of a faux roll cage. It ain't going to help you.
Yeah, there wouldn't be anything on one of these scooters that would save you if you got hit by a car, sort of thing. So, but the issue is these mobility scooters are treated exactly like pedestrians. So in the Highway Traffic Act, they're actually pedestrians. So on the sidewalk, permitted. On the road, permitted coming against traffic. So it seems a little bit counterintuitive, but you would drive a mobility scooter on the same side of the road that you would walk on.
Right.
So yeah, you're facing traffic.
Right.
So in that situation, the traffic can see you coming, you can see them, and that's the way that the Highway Traffic Act encapsulates the mobility scooters. So,
Is there a ticket for walking on the wrong side of the road?
There is a ticket actually for that. Pedestrian, walk on wrong side of highway. I'm not sure the exact wording of it, but this would fall under their pedestrian wrong side of
Kind of like jaywalking.
Yeah. So we want people to be safe. That's our main message. And when these mobility scooters are driving with traffic, they're not very fast. They're essentially just a little bit quicker than a walk, I guess. And so the vehicles coming up behind is sort of problematic. You know, you have this flow of traffic at 50, possibly 50, 60 kilometers per hour. And these scooters, if they're in traffic, that can be problematic. So the best case scenario is the sidewalk.
Right.
And if it's, if it's an area where there's a sidewalk, we encourage folks to use the mobility scooters on the sidewalk.
Interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I, for one, have always been a little confused about what belongs on the sidewalk, what belongs on the street. Should I face a certain part of the street? What side of the street? I feel like so many people get things maybe misunderstood with like just not knowing the law or like thinking this is safer, so this must be the law. Like, I mean, in terms of like, especially with bikes and skateboards and, electric scooters, like all these things are a little bit different, but they all have their rules, right?
That's right. And as I say, there's always someone trying to make something new and trying to sell a product. But many of these products, if they're sold correctly, they will have warning stickers on them saying, where they are able to be operated, or, this must be operated in accordance with local laws. That's a classic, right?
Right.
So then they kind of cover themselves off. But essentially, bikes are vehicles that are should be with the flow of traffic as far to the right as possible. Not on the sidewalk in North Bay. That's a bylaw. So it's a bylaw in North Bay. We don't want bicyclists hitting our foot pedestrians. So it is bicycles are to be on the roadway. Interestingly enough, the electric bicycles follow the exact same laws as a regular bicycle. So you do have to have a helmet.
Yep.
But you don't have to have insurance or an ownership for the electric bicycles, but they can only go 32 kilometers per hour on level ground.
I was going to say, is that because they can only reaches certain max speed?
That's right. And they're in a class of vehicle called motor-assisted bicycle. Now, what we see out there is some people saying, well, I have a mountain bike. I'm a bit of a mechanical person. I'm going to make my own vehicle, and I'm going to create a gas-powered bicycle.
A modded vehicle.
Well, that's illegal.
Yeah.
So the problem is you've created a motor vehicle, but you have no regulations on it. So you can't get a plate for it. The MTO will not give you a plate for that because it's an unregulated vehicle. You can't get insurance. You can't get an ownership, all those things that you would need now that you're driving a motor vehicle.
Right.
So you can't make a gas-powered bicycle yourself. The electric ones that you buy, they'll be under a regulation, and they'll have certain specifications that allow them to be legal. It's very complicated.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, my mind is now playing out, like very visualized interpretations of this when people started doing this more. Because I feel like it's been seen in the last couple of years where people will modify like a bike or a scooter or some sort of like non-motor vehicle into becoming like a motorized vehicle.
Yep.
And immediately I'm thinking, Dave, like, it's bringing out like the red-green part of my brain for those who don't know, Red-Green was a show back on CBC eons ago about a guy who would like modify tools or things to
With
make
duct
them
tape.
with duct tape mostly, but they would always be like needlessly high-powered. But obviously they don't get to that point. But I mean, they're making modifications, right? And I've seen a few things here and there, but how would you identify what would be a modded vehicle and a regulated vehicle?
Well, as officers, we use our senses. If we hear something that doesn't quite sound right, or if we see something that's not quite right, we'll pull it over and we'll have a closer look. So we know that anything that's modified, that's intended to be a bicycle with pedals, and someone's modified it and made it into a gas-powered, that's illegal. And you get, as you do enforcement out on the road, you get kind of used to things that are legal and things that aren't. So when we see the bicycles that are electric assisted, then as long as they have the sticker on that says they comply, then they're good to go. But there are a lot of variations out there, and the key is you can't just make something up and think you're legal.
No, fair enough.
Not seeing a lot of helmets on bike riders in town.
You know what? Helmets are mandatory for everyone that's 17 years old and down. So if you're 18 years old, you can make your own choice. But if you're 17 and down, you have to have a bicycle helmet on to operate a bicycle.
Hey, North Bay, it's time to celebrate. The city is turning 100, and Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay invites you to the party. Be at home in our spacious suites, each featuring a kitchen. Yeah, a real kitchen. Also, enjoy our comfy living spaces and brand new fitness gear so you can keep feeling great while staying on budget. Planning a big bash or business event? We've got the perfect meeting spaces right here on site. Plus, with our partnerships at The Grand and Stock Transportation, your guests and delegates are in great hands. Want to know the best part? We're right beside the beautiful Cape Paceway, steps to North Bay's lively waterfront, and moments from downtown's shopping, dining, and entertainment. Celebrate the Centennial with us all year long with an exclusive discount. Just use the code CENTENNIAL when booking your stay. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or call us at 705-495-3000.
Dear North Bay, as a single mom and full-time student, life can feel overwhelming and budgets are always tight. But one thing I never question is how deeply I care about my community. When I began volunteering at the North Bay Regional Health Centre, I saw firsthand how much the healthcare system means to people, especially when life takes an unexpected turn. It made me think, what if it was my child, my parent, or my friend that was in need of care? That's when I realized I wanted to do more, to be part of something bigger than myself. I joined the I Give monthly club because even a small monthly gift can have a meaningful impact. helping ensure everyone in our community has access to the care they need right here at home. If you believe in strong, local health care, I hope you'll join me. Sign up at nbrhcfoundation.ca or call 705-495-8125. It's simple and it matters. With gratitude, Kim Cosgrove.
Tell me the reasons. Like, I'm a big logic guy as far as there's got to be a reason for certain things. And, some regulations are so to make other people safe. And then there's insurance requirements when something's regulated. If it's not, there's a different lawsuit involved. There's a whole bunch of different reasons for that. Why do police enforce, say, things like seatbelts when it's not really harming anybody else? And I grew up in the days when we did have the advertisements when seatbelts became mandatory. Never unbuckled a dead guy kind of thing. But why should you care if somebody has a seatbelt or not?
Well, as law enforcement, sometimes we need to protect people from themselves. Simple as that. And it's better for society all around if these laws are in place. And we put laws in place because there is a percentage, and I don't know what the percentage is, of the population that will comply just because it's a law. And there's some that don't care, and there's some that, forget. So we have everyone in between. But we think it's important that if there is a collision, everybody remains safe, and seatbelts are a big part of that. It doesn't actually take, if you've seen some videos, and we've seen them in training, it doesn't take a lot of speed to actually cause injury to someone that's in a vehicle without a seatbelt. And
with TikTok, we see all kinds of people flying out cars, right?
Yeah.
Trying to do donuts and hitting a little edge and not realizing. I'm a seatbelt guy. It's probably one of the only things I do legally.
What a hot take.
Yeah.
Seatbelt guy.
Yeah, I'm a seatbelt guy. It just sort of that I do that. Now, I know I have buddies that don't wear it out of pure obstinance, that they don't think the government overreach should impact what they do inside their car if it's not hurting anybody else. But I think I remember back in the day when that was coming, insurance companies started requiring it and wanting it because they were the injuries are more catastrophic, and the people were coming out paraplegics more often and without the seatbelts, and even in minor collisions, right?
Yep.
So it was a matter of trying to, again, you're trying to protect people from themselves, and just it's kind of a smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm. We have actually on our collision reports, there's a box to check were they wearing their seatbelt properly. That's a key word too.
Properly.
Because some people will take the shoulder strap and maybe put it behind them or whatever. You have to have your seatbelt on properly for it to do its job.
I know somebody that's rigged up a fake seatbelt so he doesn't have the pressure across his waist, but anybody looking will think that he has a seatbelt on.
That's crazy.
Well,
It's
he
just a
needs to
seatbelt.
go on a diet is what he needs to do, but he's adapted.
But I mean, like, even if you just wanted to, like, not wear it because you felt like you're not harming anyone but yourself, like, don't you want to live? Like, don't you want to reduce the risk of injury?
We're talking about young men here.
I like to think I'm a young man. I know I'm not invincible. I get him. I'm just grandstanding.
Testing boundaries. I can't even drive. I can't even drive down the road without my seatbelt on because I feel unsafe. I have that feeling that I'm not secured. Yeah. And the way I drive, you want to be secured.
It's just, again, like, it sounds like David and I are our best behavior because we have a member of the police force in with us, but like, I believe these fully. Like, it doesn't take much effort. And like, I'm not a small person. Like,
well, when you're going 35 over, you need to have your seatbelt on.
You need to have your seatbelt on.
We were talking about stuff beforehand, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. But
I didn't hear any of it though.
Yes. No, nothing was heard. But we talk about how things have changed. I think seatbelts have become more of a accepted common thing. Like, I hardly see anyone not wearing a seatbelt when I'm in a car with someone, which is good. What I don't see as often are people not being on their cell phone. And again, like, this is my own personal experience. When I see people in traffic at a stoplight, I'm fortunate enough and lucky enough that my vehicle has a heads-up display, hands-free. I put on music, Google Maps, and I just let it go. I don't talk. I don't look at anything else. But not everyone has that, and some people do look at their phone between stoplights or change songs or answer a phone call. And I got to imagine that's got to be the increasing trend in terms of traffic safety violations.
Yes, that's one of the big ones that we see. People on their phones, people fiddling with their handheld device, and that's a big distraction. We've seen some of the statistics when these laws were first being implemented about how distracted driving was actually leapfrogging impaired driving as one of the leading causes of death on highways. So we knew there was a real problem, and the government acted and put these laws in place. Now it's up to us to do our part as enforcement officers, and if we see someone on a cell phone, time to stop and give them a ticket.
Fair. So I do have some talking about statistics and new stuff. So we're recording this on, what day is today? The 15th of May, right? An article came out this week that you guys, on Monday, at the start of the campaign, you issued about 20 tickets relating to traffic violations in the city.
Correct.
And obviously we have some information about CMV results from like a 2-day off-training blitz, campaign. 20 tickets a day. Is that a lot?
I would say...
What's your quota? No, I'm just kidding.
It all actually depends on many factors. Some days we run with our complement, and other days we have an extra officer. Some days are really busy days. Other days there's a little bit of time in there to do traffic enforcement, which is an important part of our job. So it all depends. When I was in traffic enforcement, 20 tickets a day for me was not unheard of. It's, depends on location. There's areas in town where there's a lot of speeding going on, and a couple hours of enforcement does wonders. I'm thinking back to an example of Algonquin Avenue a few years back when I was in the traffic enforcement office, and Algonquin Avenue was down that hill. As many of you know, it's an area where your speed creeps up, and we started doing some enforcement there, and we were writing probably on average the first couple of days 20 to 30 tickets just in that area.
Are you talking about Algonquin down to High, Jane?
Yeah, Algonquin down the hill.
Okay.
Yep. So where the old hospital used to be up there, past Algonquin School. I'll add that in there because it is a school zone. And a couple days of enforcement. By about the third day, the first day, I would say 90% of the people were at least 20 kilometers over the speed limit. By the third day, 90% of the people were complying with the speed limit. And the odd one that hadn't been driving through there the last few days, we were still reading speeds of 75, 80 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone. So we did some targeted enforcement there, and we had members of the public actually complimenting us, saying, thank you for slowing people down. And there was a marked difference in the speed just based on a couple days of enforcement. So we know that enforcement does help. It's just a matter of us having an opportunity to do that enforcement and making it a priority, which we have. We have a traffic enforcement officer, and that's his job, essentially, is to be out there in the public. But each day there's also an officer on platoon, regular platoon, that's usually assigned to traffic enforcement as well. And then all the other officers, when they're working, are also trained in the technology, so they can participate in some enforcement as well. So we're out there. And as our numbers are increasing over the last year, we've hired quite a number of officers, and we feel that our traffic enforcement. Well, we know we've looked at the statistics. Our traffic enforcement, actually, our numbers are up, which is good in terms of road safety.
When you say numbers are up, you mean in terms of
The number of tickets that officers are handing out, which is an indicator that that's needed, and hopefully, as that progresses, we actually get less tickets because there's less people that are breaking the law.
Fair enough.
So it sort of goes hand in hand that way.
So I got a couple things here. We talk about CMVs, which are commercial motorized vehicles.
Commercial motor vehicles.
Motor vehicles, okay. And so there was a quote-unquote blitz happened a couple days ago regarding just working with the OVP and the MTO, and there's some other things coming down a little bit later on this week. But the report I found was really interesting. And maybe you can talk about this. Maybe it's an involved issue. But there was 82 cars stopped, 36 warnings, 8 vehicles were taken out of service, 7 plates removed, some other stuff here. Like for what seemed like it was one day, that's like a big chunk of stuff.
Yes, and commercial motor vehicles are we target them specifically because they have a bigger responsibility, because they have a bigger vehicle, a load maybe, and they've got responsibilities in terms of keeping their vehicle safe and up to standard, because there's a difference if a transport truck is involved in a collision and just a regular car. There's a lot of weight there and there's a lot of mass there, and they can do a lot of damage. So they have a higher responsibility. And all transport drivers and all commercial motor vehicle drivers know the regulations. They have to in order to be able to drive those vehicles. So they know that they have to be safe, but just like anyone else, there is those drivers that try to skirt the rules and don't keep their vehicle in good shape, and this is cause for concern. So there was a training course that our traffic enforcement officer went on last week, and as part of this training course, there was some in class, and then there was 2 days or 1.5 days, I guess, of enforcement in this course. And so that was part of the blitz that we did. And there was a number of vehicles. And I remember, I think with the stats, there was even one that was impaired by drug.
Yeah.
So he had his commercial motor vehicle seized and impounded.
Right.
So he's got some explaining to do.
I bet he does.
Yeah. And, but this training then is going to be used tomorrow, being Friday. We're going to have another day of commercial motor vehicle blitz, and we're going to team up with the MTO and the OPP because we find this partnership works really good.
Yeah.
And we'll be in 2 locations.
Are you willing to say?
I can say now because
It'll be after the fact.
it'll be after the fact. We're going to be located at in the area along Pinewood Park Drive, where Cascade Casinos.
Oh yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So we'll be in that area, and the other area is Highway 1117 bypass at Gormanville. There's a weigh scale there, and that's where we're going to be.
I was going to say along that stretch probably would make a lot of sense.
Yep. So pulling commercial motor vehicles over, and now with the training, they'll be able to do some inspections and look at these vehicles. And I recall doing these type of blitzes in the past when I was in the traffic unit, and you see some scary stuff. We pulled some vehicles off the road, and basically we were down more towards McIntyre. There's some scrapyards back in there. Mm-hmm. And we essentially told the one guy, drive your truck into the scrapyard and walk away. It was literally...
If the vehicle's condition was...
It was so bad. So many infractions that even to get it up to any kind of standard would have cost him thousands and thousands of dollars. And we actually asked him, how did you get here without getting stopped or without going into a scale? And he admitted that because he was going into the scrapyard to drop off a load, actually. And he said, I went all the back roads. So essentially, he drove.
Knew the route.
He was coming from Englehart, I believe, and he drove all the back roads just so he wouldn't have to go by a weigh scale.
That's sneaky.
And we caught him right at the end.
There you go. Got him.
Yep.
Along the same lines there, but not commercial vehicles. Here's a sort of a story, metaphor. I would go to throw on my summer tires, taking off my winters, and my mechanic says, "You're not going to get through the summer at these." And I said, "Yeah, it's close, right?" And he says, "Not close." But I wasn't prepared to spend $1,000 that day. Went a few weeks, knowing that I'm going to have to save up for new tires. First rainstorm, I got a clear indication that I was hydroplaning on very little water, and that's I got the tires probably the next week, right? Got them done. Stayed out of the rainstorms. But do you ever see like there's a lot of cars in North Bay who run around with bald tires. Half of them keep their snow tires on because they don't have summer tires.
Yep.
Even with the what are those metal things there?
Studs. Yep.
Yeah. So I think the studs are supposed to be off now, right?
They're actually in Ontario. They have to be off by the 31st of May.
31st.
Which seems late. It used to be the end of April, but they did extend it. And over the last number of years, it's now to the 31st of May. So another couple weeks. But we do, to answer your question, we do see bald tires. Sometimes they have a habit of cropping up at collisions, especially in the winter. And I remember, again, a collision, and I was looking at the vehicle and said, "Your tires are completely bald. So this is why you weren't able to stop. Like, 2 and 2. Put it together, makes 4. And he received a ticket for improper tires because that's a safety feature of your vehicle. You have to have tires that actually will do what your tires are supposed to do, and that's
actually
stop.
it's the first thing, right? In my mind, if you don't have tires with tread, your brakes are no good anyways.
Yep.
And I think, I'm just guessing. I don't have your experience as far as direct, but I imagine brakes and tires are a big part of intersection collisions.
Yes. We find that speed and inattentiveness is a big one. But at some point, mechanical features of your vehicle, brakes, tires, all those things.
Brakes or tires can make up for going too fast if you hit them, apply them.
We find, of course, more...
What are you trying to say, Dave?
You can go fast if you have good tires. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right, okay.
That's not the message we want to put out there, though. In the winter, these things,
exponentially more important.
Exactly.
For sure,
they show themselves because, good winter tires.
And in the
Northern
summer and the
Ontario.
spring, good tires allow you to weave around the potholes. So...
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it a little bit lighter here. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, we enter like a new season. We encounter change of driver, change of habits, change of vehicle parts. With all of these things being said, Constable, like, what are some tips that you can give pedestrians, drivers, people in the community to be safe on the roads and in our city?
The biggest thing is when you're driving, concentrate on driving. Inattentiveness is and distractedness are two of the biggest issues on the roads today. So is that inattentive to what's going on around you, or is it inattentive to your speed? It could be either or, but when you're driving, you have to be aware of the speed limit. Those speed limits are put there for a reason. If it's 40, you're likely in a community safe zone or a school zone. So that should tell you that there could be kids around. You always need to keep an eye out for the school buses this time of year, especially before and after school hours. But I would say just pay attention to what you're doing, which is driving and not thinking about your day. It's hard. I'm a driver as well. And when you got something on your mind, sometimes driving is not the first thing. And we have to actually practice that to make driving the priority as to what you're doing. So, and everything else will fall into place. If you're attentive, you'll notice speed signs, you'll notice pedestrians, you'll be aware of your own speed, and you will drive safer than if you're not being attentive.
Right. I think it's really well said. I think that's the way you should go about it. It's easier said than done, I think, for a lot of people. But
I'm just going to add one thing there.
Please.
If you're attentive, you will see the speed trap faster.
However, if you're driving the speed limit, you don't have to worry about the speed trap.
Hey, checkmate. Got him. Constable, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's
Good luck
important.
out there. Hopefully, the campaign and, everyone transitioning into summer driving, hopefully things get better. But thanks for joining us, and we look forward to having you on again in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you. This is important to get our message out in the community, and we rely on things like this to get our message out there. And to all your listeners, drive safe out there and have a safe summer.
Thank you for listening to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Chris Makarski. If you like, give us a comment, share the episode, drop maybe something you found interesting about the episode, and share it with your friends. And most importantly, drive safe out there.